Alright, you all, I'm going to do a quick and dirty movie review here of a motion picture. It came out earlier this year. Maybe you've seen it, most of you probably haven't, but I think it's pretty good. Definitely one of the better straight to DVD, straight to Netflix offerings that would come out in 2014. Anyway, the name of this movie is called Rampage. I forget the subtitle. Okay, Rampage Capital Punishment. Okay, it's obviously the sequel to 2009's Rampage, directed by Uwe Boll, who of course is the guy who's probably best known for making a lot of really terrible video game adaptations. But Rampage, I think, is certainly one of the better films in his oeuvre. In fact, I think it actually teeters the line of being actually a quasi-decent psychological pseudo-thriller social horror film. That being said, I think this film, Capital Punishment, is actually a much better film than even 2009's Rampage, which I thought was really a great movie. And I think it's a movie you should probably go out of your way to see because, let's face it, if you go to the Cineplex this holiday season, you're not getting anything. It's just more CGI elves. It's more rehashed juvenile stuff like Night at the Museum. You're not getting a lot of really cutting edge, pushing the envelope kind of entertainment with a lot of social heaviness to it, which you do get with Capital Punishment. Okay, for those of you that need to be caught up on what Rampage is about, a film from 2009, directed by Uwe Boll. It's basically about this guy. It's sort of like Falling Down, that great Michael Douglas movie from the early 1990s. It's about this dude who lives out in the middle of nowhere, and he's just had it up to here with society. He's tired of all the hypocrisy and all the corruption and everyone just being completely brain dead and menial. So he decides he's going to get revenge by going out and just putting on a whole bunch of armor and getting a lot of automatic weapons and doing what's all great political dissidents do, and that's kill a whole bunch of innocent people. Now, it's a very abrasive subject matter, I have to say. Obviously, this is the kind of film that's not for everybody. Interestingly enough, you look at this film, it came out in 2009, which is really before the slate of highly publicized mass shootings in America. So the fact that Uwe Boll even went out and made a sequel to this movie after Sandy Hook and the Aurora shooting, I think it's pretty brazen of him. Whether or not that's good or bad, I'll leave that up to you. But it certainly took huevos to even consider making this film and actually go out and make it really as surprisingly decent as he did. I think also deserves commendation. So anyway, that movie, it ends with him killing a whole bunch of people, and he ends up pinning it on some white supremacist dude, and the film ends on a cliffhanger with him contemplating going on another killing spree. So it's very much a sort of a vigilante, anti-hero kind of film. It's kind of similar in vein to Taxi Driver, except whereas that film was about, alienation and isolation, and how urban environments kind of condense your individuality into nothing but sociopathy. This film is very much a political motion picture. I'm referring more to Capital Punishment than the original film. The original film is just more of a psychological thriller than anything else. Whereas Capital Punishment, I think, is definitely much more of a socially conscious film. Perhaps a little bit too heavy-handed, but more on that in just a bit. So anyway, to catch up on speed, not to catch up on speed, hopefully you're not doing speed while you're watching this video. To catch you up on where we are with Capital Punishment, the dude from the first movie who killed a whole bunch of people, he's living off the money he stole from a bank in the first movie out in, I think it's like Nevada. I think it takes place in Las Vegas, but I'm not really sure, to be honest. So he's been living there for a year, plotting his next big scheme. Everybody thinks he's dead. He's got a huge Twitter following for some reason. And he's watching a lot of cable news, and he has this really weird fascination with this one dude who's like an Anderson Cooper analog. And eventually he decides to stick it to the man by going to a Fox News-like affiliate, which is kind of weird because this TV station he takes over looks really small. I mean, it's not like some gigantic megalith news corporation building, which would probably make more sense. But then again, the budget of this movie was like $12, so you take what you can get. So anyway, he decides he's going to go storm a TV station and hold the reporter hostage. And and take a whole bunch of innocent people down with him. And eventually he goads everyone down to the basement, and he's got like a bunch of bombs set up. It's really kind of going where you think it's going, but for Uwe Boll's credit, there are a lot of really great swerves in this movie, which I'm not going to give away because it just heightens the drama. So anyway, he basically holds this guy hostage, and he says, hey, I need you to play this DVD. And it's basically like this really long, rambling InfoWars kind of type spiel about how the government's corrupt and everybody's an idiot. Instead of actually caring about the world, we're just content with watching, reality TV. So, I mean, there's a lot of things he's saying that I think are kind of on the nose. There's actually this really bizarre segment where he starts talking about gun control, which is kind of funny because this is a movie where we're supposed to root for an absolutely remorseless mass killer, and there's this entire monologue that's pro-gun control and anti-NRA. It's very bizarre and sort of entertaining, but it's in there. So anyway, this guy, he goes on this really long rant about WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden, and about how we're losing privacy and how Obama is just as bad as Bush. Like I said, it gets really politically heavy-handed. I don't know if you're into that. If that's a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker. But eventually, that's sort of his rationale for why he's out doing what he's doing. And after that, it's played. It causes a huge worldwide sensation. Everybody on Facebook starts sharing it. And then he cajoles the reporter into doing a live interview with him. And there's a lot of great twists and turns. I really don't want to give it away because it is very character-driven. I mean, the acting in this movie is surprisingly great, considering the two main actors, the reporter and the mass killer dude, are pretty much no-names. So if you go to this movie expecting just, blood and guts and, no context and no plot whatsoever, I think you're going to be kind of surprised because it's actually a really well-written movie. The dialogue is really great, and it throws a lot of swerves at you that you perhaps did not expect from a movie like this to have. Well, anyway, of course, there is a really, really, really huge swerve at the ending. I'm not going to give that away. But ultimately, I think this was a really great, entertaining film. Like I said, this is not a movie for everybody. I mean, the content alone, just telling you what it's about, you're going to know within 10 seconds whether or not this is your type of material. But, like I said, it's very daring, it's cutting edge, it's aggressive. It's the kind of movie that a lot of people consider to be dangerous, which I think is code word for, it makes you think, and it's not just telling you to go out and buy toys. But yeah, I think it's a really, really interesting film. Maybe not the most intellectual film in the world, but I'd rather watch this than probably 90% of stuff that came out at all the mainstream theaters this year. So that's Rampage, Capital Punishment. The box art, I gotta tell you, is kind of misleading. You look at this, you think it's gonna be a movie about a guy who goes out and, blows up Washington, but it's not really, because they didn't have the budget for it. But I still think this is really great, sort of subversive, independent media. We don't get enough of this, and I think it's one of the better offerings to come out this year. So there we go, Rampage, Capital Punishment, Uwe Boll. I think it's worth going out of your way to see, and if you see it on Netflix this weekend, it's a great way to spend the holidays.